Welcome! I'm so glad you're here. I'm Gila Ross, parenting educator and coach, author of Living Beautifully and host of the Confident Parent podcast, bringing you the content you need to bring more ease, joy and love into your parenting so that you can show up as the parent you want to be to your children.
The Kodak moment. Who remembers the idea in the Kodak moment?
Did anyone get a chance to practice it?
Tried, but it's really hard, you know. Like,
give us an example. That's what you tried.
What was it? Max has really taken to these books, these Kes Gray books, Daisy books, or whatever. He really loves them, and he's racing through them. And for a kid that wasn't a massive reader, it's brilliant. So that was an easy one to go, wow, you seem to be really enjoying those books. But it's like a conscious effort it's like you're running commentary on what they're doing. It's quite hard.
Yeah, it is. And I think also it's something we're not used to doing. We're much more used to saying, oh, you did that well, oh, you did that not so well, right? So it's
natural.
It's more the mental effort than the physical effort, right? Because some parenting will tell you, take each child out for one-on-one time, find time in the days when you could go out where you could spend a half an hour, and that's a struggle because finding a half an hour is hard, whereas this is more a question of getting into the habit of doing it rather than, like, it doesn't actually take that much time, but it's something new. It is new. But I want to say, Amy, I think it's fantastic that you tried, and it's fantastic that you did it. Can I ask you, what was the response?
He then went into this whole big long about how all about the book and a big long description. I actually got feedback from that one. He seemed to like that I'd taken an interest in what it was that he was saying or doing. That's
brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. That really shows the power of it, is that we're just taking the time, the moment to get into their world, right? And to show them that you're important to just for who you are. Thank you, Amy.
So yeah, I tried with the girls and their artwork, just like trying to just have a talk about it, going, oh, it's lovely how you enjoy doing that so much and things. But I think it's having it come from a genuine place as well. Not that I don't care how their artwork is going, but like Aoife kind of almost called me out on it, like, why do you keep saying these things?
Yeah, no, you're raising a very good point, and we're going to get onto that point about it being genuine, and because you're right, you're 100% right. It's got to be genuine. I'm going to get to that later of how we make sure it's genuine. When she said, was that coming from a negative place, a positive place?
Just questioning me. She goes, why do you keep sort of saying what I'm doing? Or
a very normal response for a kid to sort of say, like, hey, what's going on? And if you're older and they know that you're taking a parenting course, then they're like, what did they teach you there? Right? But don't give up, because again, as it shows that it's registering with them. So brilliant, fantastic for doing it enough that she noticed that you were doing it. Let's move on, okay? Because this week we're going to take it up a step, and we're going to show how we can use it to teach our children values. So the first question I want to ask is, what values do we want to teach our children?
Appreciation.
Great, brilliant one.
Kindness.
Honesty.
Respect. We can all think about it, and we can all ask the question of what values do we want to teach our children. Incidentally, there is a mitzvah in Judaism to have children. And Rav Hirsch, who was a rabbi that lived in Germany a couple hundred years ago, he writes amazing ideas on Judaism. And he says that the mitzvah of having a child is not just to physically give birth to a child, but it is to give birth to a child and then to raise that child to adulthood, to look after that child physically, emotionally, and spiritually, right? The values that we want to teach our children and how we want them to be the next generation of proud Jews that are going to continue on the heritage and have all those different values that some of you mentioned. But I think it's also amazing to think that It's a mitzvah, right? It's a holy work that we are engaged in. Okay, so how do we teach values to our children? The very easy question that I'm sure off the top of the head we can all answer without batting an eyelid. I was joking. It's not such an easy question. If it was such an easy question, everyone would be such a fabulous parent. How do we teach our children values?
Lead by example.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. Monkey see, monkey do.
Absolutely.
Which, by the way, is one of our principles, right?
It is number 5.
Number five.
Live the message. On a day-to-day basis, though, you know, we want our children, let me just pick on honesty. I think that's one that we can all agree on, right? You want your child to be honest. If you think about when was the last time you probably spoke to your child about honesty? In what sort of context? And you don't have to give details if you don't want to, but what sort of, this is very, very important for anyone that has a young child. There are great educators that say that at that age, a child who is telling something that's not true, it's not strictly speaking a lie. What does that mean? Bear with me. Is because they are probably telling something that's not true in order to save themselves from getting into trouble, which means that obviously you still have to correct them and teach them to be honest. But it means that we don't have to in our mind think, oh my goodness, I'm raising a pathological liar, right? Like you'll say to a child of like 2, like, did you eat the chocolate? And their mouth is up and they'll say, no, right? And they have to know, you have to teach them to be honest, but we don't have to worry that we're raising a pathological liar, which I think brings us to, does anyone else have anything to share about when was the last time you spoke to your child about a value?
You tend to do it when they're not doing it.
As parents and as educators and as human beings, we often point it out when they're not doing it, right? Now, let's get back to what we were saying last week, where children want our energy, right? Now, if you think about it, if your child tells a lie, right? Or if your child, says something not nice to their sibling and you give them a 5-minute lecture, yes, it's negative, but you're giving them 5 minutes of your time. Now, what we want to do is we want to reverse that, and we want to give our children our energy and our time when they are doing things right? Because also the other thing is, and this is especially with kids that are more prone to do things wrong, is that if every time they hear about a certain value is when they're not doing it, they're going to get a very negative association with it. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to use something that's called experiential recognition, where we as parents, as empowered parents, get to use what our children are doing to teach the values that we want to do. Now, Claire earlier in the session brought up a very, very good point. And she says, it's got to be genuine, right? It means we know when people are genuine or not. Our kids, for sure, they know when we're genuine or not, right? Now, let me ask you a question. How not great is it when your child says something not kind?
Sometimes embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. Okay. What happens if you're out in public and your child says to some stranger a horrible word, right? It doesn't have to be a swear word, just like a not nice word. How not great do you feel about that?
You feel not great about yourself. You think, oh my gosh, I have not raised this child correctly.
Yeah. It's embarrassing. You feel not great. Now, what I want you to do is to take that feeling of not greatness and to transform it into when your child isn't messing up, right? Now, your child is not saying anything not nice. That's great. You don't have that embarrassment. You don't have to worry that you're raising whatever. You don't have to worry that you're failing as a parent, right? You have to take those feelings, think to yourself of how not great it is when your child talks back to you, when your child is whatever it is that your particular child is doing at the moment, and then transform that into how great it is when your child is not messing up. Okay, so let's try and practically figure out how we can do an experiential recognition. Let's just say your child is on the computer, 100% focused. Anyone has any idea how you can turn that into an experiential recognition? Okay, so basically what you want to do is you want to, describe the moment, a Kodak moment, and then extend that to include a value.
This child has great concentration.
Brilliant, right? So you could turn around to your child and say, oh, I see that you're playing this and this game. Wow, I see that you have so much focus on that. That shows me that you can concentrate so well. There you go. You've taken a totally neutral moment and you've turned it into a powerful, positive moment for your child. Now, what are you doing? You're doing a number of things. Number one is you are very clearly communicating your values. You're communicating that you value concentration. You're also giving your child, you're filling them up with inner wealth and you're building their self-esteem. I'll give you another example. Let's just say you have two kids and one of them annoys the other one and you see the other one getting really, really, really angry. And what they do is they throw their toy down and storm out the room. What could you possibly say that would turn that into a Kodak moment with experiential recognition?
I don't know exactly what to say, but I mean, it's brilliant that they didn't actually get up and hit them.
There you go. So you could say something like, I see that your brother really annoyed you. And I see how much self-control you had not to shout at them or not to hit at them, but you just walked out that room. That shows me how much self-control you have, right? What are you doing there is you're taking a moment, which is, and the truth is, depending on your child, it is self-control, right? How easy and how not great does it make us feel when the kids, they get annoyed and the kid takes and swats the other kid back, right? We don't love it. Take that energy. They didn't do it and transfer it and say and communicate how impressed you are that they had the self-control you do it. And at the same time, what you're doing is you're communicating the value that you value self-control. I'm going to give you your homework, your prescription for this week. The homework is we are going to try and continue with the Kodak moments, but we're going to try and do several experiential recognition moments, right? And again, we are human beings, and not only are we human beings, life is more stressful. So I think number one is we have to be kind to ourselves. And just like, you use those Kodak moments and those experiential recognition with your children, you use it for yourself as well. I got the kids into bed and I almost lost my temper, but I didn't. You know what? That shows that I have fantastic self-control, right? You fill yourself up as well with them. Be extra kind with ourselves. Now, what we want to do is we want to try and do several of these. If you could do several an hour, brilliant. If you could do several a day, brilliant. However many you do, they are going to be powerful and positive, and you are going to fill your child up. And even young children, right? It seeks in, no matter how old your child is, even babies, when you talk to them, their face lights up, right? So no matter how old your child is, they will gain from it. Be creative, right? Sometimes you may have to invent it, right? For example, when I said that video game one, most of us, it's not, you come in and you see your child on the video game again. It's not like, whoa, that's such a thrilling moment, right? But that's our choice as parents, right? Think back to the baby steps moments when you see your child standing up and walking and you make it into a positive thing. That's our choice as parents, to be those empowered parents and to create those moments of success where we can communicate our values to our children and to really fill them up from the inside and build their sense of self.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your questions for future episodes. And please take a moment, think about someone else who might benefit from this and forward it on to them. If you enjoyed this podcast, you'll love my book, Living Beautifully, for more insights on how to bring meaning, joy, love into your life based on timeless Jewish wisdom. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out.